Today it's a video around the administrator trials, also called admin. I think it's a very important video. I will first explain, take a bit of time to explain how the skills work in the game and how Ignition works with all the system of Ignition gauge and everything, because in admin it's very important to choose the TRs and everything, and for that you need to understand the system very well. So that will be the first thing, and then I will take time to do a quick rundown first on all admin generally, and then on each specific admin. Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so first a little rundown about the skills and all the mechanics around them, since they are quite important to understand before going too much into details for each mod. So each character has the same layout. There is a difference between legendary and epic, but I will mostly cover legendary, even though it's quite similar, so you will find your way. So how it works is that each character has two base skills, the skill 1 and skill 2. Those are called base skills, and basically your character are gonna start by doing those. The order is first skill 2 and then skill 1, always. And he's just basically gonna do them on cooldown, and he's gonna start the fight by using them. Then there is the passive that is always enabled during the fight. So it's a bonus that's gonna be applied throughout all the fight to your character. And sometimes it also applies to allies. When it applies to allies, it's specified in the passive. Then there is the X skill, also called Shinsu skill. So when you see for ignition weapon, for example, Shitsu skill, that's what it means. This skill is a more important skill that takes time to load. You're gonna see around your character loading gauge that we're gonna see later on. That indicates the cooldown of the skill. So the cooldown depends on your character. You have some characters that have lower cooldown, for example, and some characters that has higher cooldown. But basically, when it's gonna reach the gauge around the portrait of the character, we're gonna see this later, it's gonna use this skill, and it's gonna do its purpose, but also it's gonna trigger on something else. It's gonna try to launch the ignition skill if you met the condition. So there is a couple conditions for this. The TR skill is only used first if you have equipped a legendary weapon, legendary ignition weapon on your character. So a legendary ignition weapon is one per character. So you either you have the specific weapon for the character, or you have the faction weapon. You also have faction weapons that apply to all the factions. So for example, if you got the Tower Climber faction weapon, you can equip it on all your Tower Climber and you will be able to use their TR. So that's the first condition. The second condition is obviously to launch the Shinsu skill, the X skill. The TR is only gonna activate after the Shinsu skill. And I really say after. That means that you're gonna always launch the Shinsu skill before going into TR. And then you need the thing at the top. It's called the ignition gauge. And for example, for BAM, it's minus 10 ignition gauge. That means that you need 10 ignition gauge points. You're gonna maybe ask me, what are ignition gauge points? Ignition gauge points are they are generated by your characters. We're gonna see this later on, but there is it's indicated in the UI. You have an ignition gauge that goes up with each base skill. So each base skill is gonna generate 1 point, and that's true for all your characters. That means that all your characters is gonna share the same ignition gauge. That means that all the skills they do, all the base skills they do, are generating 1 point that's gonna go towards a shared pool of ignition gauge that all your characters are gonna use to go into TR. So that means that when some character is gonna go into TR, it's gonna remove 10 points from the ignition gauge. And so if you have too many characters that tries to go into TR at the same time, they're not gonna be able to. Only some characters will, and so that's why you want to choose carefully which TR you want to enable and which character should go into TR and everything. We're gonna go into combat to understand this a bit more. Okay, so don't bother about all the admin stuff. I'm only there for visual support. So as you can see, on the character, you will see all the skills is gonna cast, basically. So periodically, you will see the base skill 2 and 1 be launched, and you will see their little picture on the portrait. So that's how you can know that they are launching the skill 2 and skill 1. But you see the little gauge around the character, that's the Shinsu skill, the X skill that's loading. It takes 15 seconds for BAM to load. And when it's done, he does this big tornado attack, and he launches the Shinsu skill. And there, you're gonna see that since he had 10 ignition points, he will launch his TR. So I know it's been a little quick, so I'm gonna re-explain it a bit, but each time he's gonna cast those spells, he's gonna generate ignition gauge. So the ignition gauge, it's on the bottom right. It's this thing that's in the case 2 right now. And when he's gonna do his X skill, he's gonna check if he has enough points to go into TR. And if not, he's gonna simply keep doing the normal spells. And if he does have 10 points, he's gonna go into TR. And so there you see him just doing the normal attack each time. And only if he got 10 ignition points, he's gonna go into TR. Also, a thing to note is about the manual. If you disable the automatic mode on the game, the character will normally do all the skills, but he will not do the Shinsu skill, the X skill. He's gonna wait that you just simply tap on the character to do it. And that's how you launch manually a Shinsu skill, but also if you're wondering how you launch a TR skill manually, it's similar, but you need all the first things. So you need to have the Shinsu skill charged around the character, and also you need 10 ignition points. And if you got those two characteristics, and also you got obviously a legendary weapon on your character, you can. So quick recap last time, because I really want to insist on it because it's important for the rest of the game. There you see him launching every skill. When he loads fully the gauge around the portrait, he launches automatically his Shinsu skill because it's in auto. And he's not launching his TR because he needs also the ignition gauge that it's on the bottom right. Obviously there, since I only have one character, the ignition gauge is very slow to load. But if I have several characters, the characters are gonna take each other's TRs. I'm gonna demonstrate it in a bit. Okay, so now same thing, but with 4 characters. So with 4 characters, you're gonna see that they're gonna launch a ton more skills, and the ignition gauge on the bottom is gonna charge faster. That's because each base skill of each character is gonna generate ignition. But another thing to note is that all 4 characters have the TR enabled on, and they all have a legendary weapon. And so, well, that means that they won't be able to all go into TR because each character is gonna spend the ignition points. So as you can see, some characters are gonna launch their ignition, but some are gonna try but can't because they do not have enough points. So for example, Bam there, he won't go into TR because he doesn't have any points. And for example, the next character, like Xia right there, she's gonna go into TR because she got 10 points. And so when you have several characters, You shouldn't enable all those because that make the tier management really hard to do, and you should only enable the tier you want. So like for Imagine, I can only enable those two. Since they are 2 DPSs, I can maybe think, okay, I want to do more damage, and I enable those two. And like this, I'm gonna simply make sure that those two characters always can always TR, but the other two are not stealing the ignition gauge points. And as you can see with this current setup, they will always generate enough ignition gauge to have both of them go into TR. Because there is something to know is that if you have 4 characters, you will be able to have 2 tiers enabled, and if you have 6 characters, you will be able to have 3 tiers enabled. For 5 characters, it's a bit harder, and even for any amount, you have some characters that change that quite a bit, because once again, you have some tiers that cost more or less points. You also have some characters that generate ignition gauge. So it's not always the case, but the rough stats here are 4 characters 2 TR and 6 characters 3 TRs. Okay, so let's talk about admin in general. So I'm gonna use some visuals, and then I'm gonna show a bit of gameplay for each admin. But keep in mind that I'm not gonna use the exact gameplay of the admin, because that needs me to record at a specific days, and it's quite hard for me. So I'm gonna show you it on the same admin, but the strategy is gonna remain the same. But we will see this in a few seconds. So first, for the things that applies to all 3 admin. So the admin bosses are big bosses that has infinite HP, and that has phases based on your rise spot level. So you're gonna progress through rise spot floors, and you're gonna earn some phases based on what floor you're on race spot. So for example, for blue admin, it's something around 150, while on red admin is 180 to unlock all the phases, and I think on purple admin it's 220 to unlock everything. So each phases allow you to go roughly 30 seconds. I say roughly because sometimes you have some bosses where you can scrap for some more seconds, but it's mostly something like that. And so more time is gonna equal to more damage dealt, since the score is based on the damage you're gonna do on the boss. And so you're gonna want to have the more phases to deal more. Also, the rewards are based on the phases also, so you really want to have a good amount of phases, but since it's based on rise spots, it's something that is gonna come with the progression, and you're not supposed to focus this specially for admin, for example. So first, for the blue admin, it's on Monday, Thursday, and Sunday, and the rewards are focused on armors. So you're gonna have resources to craft equipments, and also you're gonna have chests where you can drop equipments directly. The red admin is on Tuesday and Friday, and it's focused on weapons. So same as for blue admin, you're gonna get resources to craft weapons, and also directly chests where you can get weapons and also some resources. And then lastly, for the purple admin, it's on Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday, and it gives a few keys, diamonds, and a few gold. I say very few because it doesn't scale with your level or anything. It's a flat amount, and so with your progression, it's not gonna be a lot at some point, and the purple admin should be changed at some point, I feel like. Okay, so first, Blue Admin. So Blue Admin specificities are that first you're gonna have a team that only consists of 4 characters. The admin is gonna do rather low damage, so you can try to remove healers when you see that you can survive without them. Normally, it should comes with more defensive stats and everything, and is a bit more vulnerable to magic damage. So that's something that we also talk about with red admin, but basically some admin as are vulnerable to some type of damage on some phases. It makes some difference at some point, but mostly if you have a very strong DPS that's well above the rest on your account, you will use him for any admin. That doesn't matter really. So it should only matter when you have a similar level DPS that can both do correct damage. So for the composition, um, I will always suggest to go for Bam. Bam is the main character we're gonna use for everything. He is very strong for admin, and he got good fate skill and good passive skills, and so we're gonna use him. I will cover fate skill and passive skill after all the 3 admins. Uh, then we're gonna go with Zaya if you got the event. If you miss the event, then you can put anything that I talked about below. You replace it basically. Um, so you have also Sachi Faker that is very good. Also Zaya, she buffs crits to all your team, so that's really good, and she buffs magic damage. So when it comes to composition, what Zaya do is that she's gonna improve any magic DPS you have, especially if it's a range magic DPS, because she only buffs the closest person to her. So you need to have someone that's near her to get the buff. Then you have Sachi Faker, that is a strong admin character because he buffs your entire team and also does quite a lot of damage. Then you can have things like Waryun. She's really good with her ignition weapon to unlock the TR, but even if you don't has it, she can maybe be a strong option because she defense break, she reduce enemy defense. Or you can put a strong DPS. Same for Sachi Faker. If you don't have him, just put a strong DPS. What I mean by strong DPS is gonna depend on your account and on one unit you have and you have upgraded. But with BAM, Tower Climber are way stronger because he got a Fate skill, a passive skill, that buffs Tower Climber critical damage. And so with Zaya that also buffs crits, Tower Climber will make a ton of damage. So that's why characters like Anak can be really good, or characters like Sachi, or you also have Ats, the epic character that does quite a bit of damage. But that's gonna depend on your account basically. Then for the strategy, you're gonna want to so you need to understand all I talked about first about ignition and tier management and anything. So for blue admin, you're gonna want to disable auto sometimes to let BAM or maybe another DPS if you have a better DPS than BAM, but I adopt it because BAM is really good for admin. You're gonna disable auto because basically a lot of the times you're not gonna generate enough ignition gauge for BAM to go into TR directly. So we will see this a bit later when I do it in real time, but basically it is not gonna go into TR immediately if you don't disable auto. So a lot of the time you want to disable auto a few seconds and enable auto when the ignition gauge is at 10, or manually launch the TR. The 2 options are correct. Also, since you only have 4 characters, you want to only switch on 2 tiers, because as I said in the first part, you won't be able to have all characters use their ignition weapon. So you want to only enable your your 2 best tiers. Usually a lot of the time it's gonna be BAM plus another character. The other character can be either a really good DPS or some good tiers like Waryun. You have Waryun that is a very good tier even if it's not purely DPS. She's gonna buff also your ally damage. But to figure out all this, you will need to make some tests. You can retry infinitely if you want. The admin is gonna just take the best score, and so feel free to just make retries, and also it can be quite random with the critical hits and everything. Okay, so really quickly, a little application to show you. Once again, it's not really in Blue Admin. I'm not in Blue Admin because I'm not on the good day, but it's really the same thing. I only use 4 characters, so it's really the same thing for tier management at least. So what you want to do is to disable auto and to either manually click on your characters to just trigger their skills and to manually launch the BAM's TR. Or you can also do is disable auto, and when you have enough gauge, it should be really quick. It's just to prevent the fact that BAM can sometimes miss the TR. You activate the auto. And then for tier management, what you want to do is to go just to the left of your ignition gauge. You have this little button with TR on it, and you want to only enable 2 tiers there. And you want to only choose your 2 best tiers, and once again you need to test that out. So now for red admin. So red admin is the second admin we're gonna talk about. This one you will be able to bring 6 characters, so that means that you will be able to enable 3 tiers, but we will talk about that later. It does a lot of damage, so you will need to bring at least 1 healer and maybe more. It's really not the same as for blue admin. This one does a lot of damage, a lot of continuous damage also, and so is really much harder in terms of damage, and you will probably die a lot of the times, but don't mind a lot about this. Don't be like you, don't think too much about surviving. You still need to do a lot of damage, so don't put only healers or anything just to survive. You still to find a good balance between surviving and deal a ton of damage, but we're gonna talk about that. And then is a bit more vulnerable to physical damage. Same thing as for the blue admin. He got phases where is more vulnerable to physical damage. Or actually it's that I think is resists more to magical damage, but you get the idea. It basically makes the same thing. So what you want to do for this one is to, same as the first one, bring your best DPS, but if you have if you just hesitate between 2 DPSs that are evenly upgraded, let's say, maybe take the physical one, but same as for the blue one, really focus on your best DPS and don't focus too much about this magic and physical thing. The most important is to bring strong DPSs. So for the composition, you're gonna always use BAM. Same as for blue, you're gonna find the same 4 units. Zaya, if you miss the event, replace her with anything. But if you have her, definitely play her. Sachi Faker, same. If you have him, play him. Great buffer and great DPS. If you don't have him, take a really strong DPS. That's gonna depend on your box, your progression, your characters. If you are Waryun, especially if you got a ignition weapon, maybe bring Waryun. She's really good. You don't need a lot of transcendence to make her really good. Or you can bring a strong DPS. Also, for DPSs on red admin, you can bring something like Kasano, because Kasano inflicts damage to himself, so you need healers for him. But since you're gonna bring healers on the red admin, you can bring Cassano. But keep in mind that for Cassano to be really good, he needs his weapon, his ignition weapon, so he can use his TR. Without it, he's not that strong. And then you're gonna bring one healer, your best healer, so probably Kun AA or something like that. And then you can so this is the part where you need to try things out. You can either bring a second healer or bring another DPS. And so what I would suggest is to try the two and find a good balance between surviving enough and making enough damage, because a lot of the times you're gonna be happy if you survive long, but if you lose 500k damage, it's not worth it, right? So you have to find the balance between the two, and sometimes it will be a healer, sometimes it will be a DPS. I can't tell you about it 100% because it depends on your progression and what you have on the account and anything. So for the strategy, what you want to do for the red admin is to let your best TR go on first. So that means you're gonna disable the other TRs and just re-enable them just after the first TR. But for the first TR, the characters are not gonna generate enough for all 3 characters to TR at the same time. So you want to only let your best characters, a lot of the time it's gonna be BAM, to TR first. Then you're gonna want to choose 3 TRs and to let them always on, and to not let everything on if you got multiple ignition weapon. And then one thing to be really aware on red admin is the knockback. Basically, on red admin, you will have phases where he's gonna do an attack that can inflict knockback on your characters. And so that can disable your TR if it happens during the ignition period, during the first seconds of the TRs. And so you want to watch a bit your admin run, just look at how it goes. And if you see that you're getting cancelled out by the knockback, what you want to do is to disable it for a few seconds and re-enable it just after. Admin is something that it's always the same timing. So if you realize that you're getting knockbacked on one timing, it's always gonna be the same. And so you just have to understand it one time, and it will work for every run, basically. So I will show you in gameplay. So once again, for gameplay, I'm not using the red admin because it's not a red admin day, but I'm using my red admin team, and I'm showing you I'm just showing you what you should do in terms of TR and anything. So the first thing I've told to you is to choose the good TRs. So you disable everything and you let enable only the TR you want. So in my case, you want BAM. When he casts the TR, you can enable the rest. It's exactly what I did, is to wait that he casts the TR and to enable them after. There is a bit of a timing, but that's all. And then the thing about the knockback, I won't obviously be able to show you because it's not the red admin, but basically the red admin will at some point knockback you, and you will see on your character a little thing showing it will be red. All the character portraits will be red, and there will be typed out knockback. And so if you realize that this happens when the character is doing his animation, so when the big portrait and frame take up all the screen like this, what you want to do is we're gonna do it with BAM this time. You want to disable auto for a few seconds. So you disable it, so he waits like this. He waits a few seconds and then you activate auto back. And so like this, he's gonna TR just after the knockback, and he's not gonna be cancelled out. So finally, for purple admin, so in my opinion, the least important admin, mostly because of the rewards, because the rewards are really worse than the other two. So is least important for now. Is less important for now. But I will talk about it anyway. So for this one, you will be able to bring 6 characters plus 6 backup characters that gonna replace your dead characters. So each time a character is gonna die, one character of the backup is gonna come and just play her. This admin blocks heals. He really reduces recovery, and at such a big amount that at one point it's not even worth it to bring any healers. So in my opinion, you should just bring the most damage you can and just do it like this. It has a shield mechanic that you need to break in order to deal a ton more damage, because when you're gonna break the shield, the sentinel is gonna be disabled for a few seconds, and it's gonna have less defense, and so you will be able to deal a ton of damage this way. So for the composition, you have the same 4 first units. I'm not gonna cover it. I talked about it twice already, but it's the same thing. But then for the 2 last units, you will add another DPS because you don't need healers. Or what you can do is to bring something like Verdi. She's a legendary unit that destroys shields, and so if you got her, it can be really good to play her, even if you got her T0 or something like this, and even if it's supposed to be a healer, because she really destroys shields a ton. For the strategy, you're gonna do the same thing as for the red. You're gonna let BAM first and disable the other TRs. And then after BAM TRs, you're gonna switch 3 TRs on, just the same as for red admin. You don't have to think about any knockback on this one. It's much easier, and you just do it this way. For the backup, a lot of the time it's gonna come really late, and so the boss is gonna be really strong at this point, and the shield is gonna be really strong. So there is not really much strategies that goes with it. You just put the characters you have, all the characters that can scrap some damages. But one strategy that can be useful if you have Verdi and you already deal enough damage to break the first shields is to put Verdi in the backup, so she only comes when one of your unit dies, and so she's there for the really big shields that comes at the end. That can be a strategy because the early shields are doable, but the late shields are insanely hard to break, and so you might want to bring Verdi for those late shields. That's just some ideas you can adapt, and once again in admin I suggest you to try. A lot of the things are gonna depend on your characters and everything, so I suggest you to try everything. Same as always, you disable everyone and you wait for BAM's TR, and when he does, you enable the others you want to enable. For purple admin, there is nothing else when it comes to gameplay. There is the shield. When it breaks the shield, it's gonna have the little phases at the end of the time where you can put a lot of damage on him, and it stops the timer, so each time you will have in bonus, kind of. And so that's why destroying the shield is gonna allow you to deal a ton of damage. And also the little purple indicators you can see on your characters. The right one is the anti-heal effect. It's the thing that's blocking the recovery of your characters. And the left one is a defense break, meaning that it's gonna do more and more damage to you since it's stacking so much. And so that's why you shouldn't bring too much healers. For me, is that when you're gonna need heals, you're gonna have so many debuffs stacked that you're gonna heal a ton. You're gonna heal almost 0. So there you can see plus 0 HP there. And sometimes you're gonna see plus 10 and anything. So that's fine. For the fate skills, you saw them all throughout the little demonstrations, but I'm gonna explain them a little bit. I'm always using this for every admin. I'm using first the Yuria skill, then the Warrior skill, then the Rack skill, then the Lore skill, and then the Anak skill. I'm using those two passive skills. If you don't have certain skills or passives, just replace them, and when you have them, you can use them. Some of those are better if you can upgrade those. So, for example, Waryun 1, level 1 is not really good, and so it's a bit of an issue because you need Waryun to upgrade it. So, a lot of the times the skill is gonna stay level 1 for a lot of people. It can be the same for Yuri if you weren't there for the event. But mostly this is what I use because the Yuri skill does insane damage and gonna decrease the cooldowns of all your team, so it's really good. And those two are great for admin because for any content that lasts for a long time, since it's lasting debuff in the case of Waryun skill and buff in the case of Rock skill, it's really worth it in the long run. And then you just put some skills that does a lot of damage to scrap some damage. And then for the passive skills, you have the Hats one that is insanely good, the one that I already talked about a little in the blue admin, that increases all your tower climber crit damage, and so that makes it very synergistic with BAM and tower climbers, and that will allow you to have really good DPS on all tower climbers. So this one to really keep in mind and upgrade a ton to scrap some damage in admin. Try to upgrade it a ton. And then you have the River Charm, a passive skill that increases BAM magical damage by a certain amount. It's quite hard to get because it's in the family shop, and it's quite hard to get family coins. But if you get it, it's really good for admin. But if you don't have it, it's not a big issue. The other skills won't help you much in admin, so I won't talk about it. I will very briefly talk about placement, because frankly placement is not crucial for admin, just because the characters are gonna move by themselves depending of their ranges, and since the admin is not gonna target specific units really depending on the specific placement, it's not gonna be really important. So I know it's a question that I see a lot, but don't be too mindful about this, especially in admin. In other content it can be really important and critical a lot of the times, and it's gonna depend on the enemy you're facing and anything. But on admin it's really not that important. So the only thing I wanna talk about is about Xayah, this character, because she buffs the closest ally with magic bonus magic damage. And so that what is important to understand is that you need to have a magical DPS near her, so she buffs this DPS and not someone else. So it's not the initial placement that's gonna matter. Well, it will, but it's actually the in-game placement that is gonna matter. She's gonna launch the skill and just check the nearest ally, and it's gonna buff this one. So the thing I do, but I'm not sure if it works for every character, is to put Xayah there and my magic DPS behind her, just like this. So as you can see with this placement, my Sashi is the one getting the buff. You can see it there. It's the little circle thing. And yeah, he's the one getting the buff. Okay, so that's it for the video about Administrator's Trial or admin. I hope you learned some things, and that you understood a bit more about this game mode, but also all the things around ignition and skills. And so I wish you all a great time on the game. And as always, if you have any question or suggestion or anything, feel free to ask in the comments, and I'll try to answer.